Okay, by the time this video is out there, I would have stopped working as a coach driver for my current employer. I'm going to be back on London's buses as a driving instructor, teaching people to drive single and double-decker buses around London. But before I go, I just wanted to make a quick video to take away some of the mystery of driving one of these large coaches. You might see coaches going past us in the Tower Coach Park as I'm talking, because it's quite busy in here today. There's a various coach just about to move out, but I'm just going to go through some of the controls. There's lots of videos on YouTube of people asking pilots, do you need keys to start a Boeing 747? Well, of course you don't, but you do need keys to one of these coaches, and they go in just here, just like a car. So basically, just like a car, when you enter the vehicle, the first checks you make are to make sure the handbrake is on. It's down here, and the gear selector, which is on the steering column stalk, is set to neutral. You then go ahead, turn the ignition on. You get various warning lights that come on, just like your car, and within 5 seconds should go off. And once they're off, as long as you're happy with everything, you can go ahead, put your foot on the foot brake, check in the mirrors to make sure there's nobody standing near the exhaust, because you're going to cover them in black smoke if the vehicle's emitting any smoke, and then go ahead and start the engine. And there we go, we've got a good start. Okay, so let's just have a look at the controls now. We'll go with the dashboard first of all. There we go. Starting from left to right at the top, the first button we've got here on the left is the hill hold button. When you start on a hill, as long as the vehicle's in gear, when you release the handbrake, it will stop the vehicle from rolling back for about 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, that brake will release and the vehicle will roll back. Before it does that, it gives you an audible warning. So that's the hill hold button. You can turn it off, because you might not want the audible warning going off every time you do a head start if there's a guy talking on the microphone. The one next to that is simply the radar at the front. These vehicles have a radar on the front. If you're going to have a collision, it senses that and it will apply the brakes if the driver does nothing. Again, that can be turned off. The button down here distributes weight between the two rear axles. If you're on loose ground, for example, and you're getting wheel spin, you might need to put more weight onto the driving wheels, because at the rear we've got 2 axles, but it's only the forward axle that actually turns and drives the bus. The rear axle is called the tag axle. It steers, but it doesn't actually provide any driving force through the wheels. We leave it on automatic, so it distributes the weight on the axles automatically. We can transfer weight forward or backward as we wish. The next button along here that's illuminated is the electrical isolator switch, and then we've got the battery master switch next to it. Obviously, unless the electrical isolator's on, we won't get any electrical power. Below that, we've got a check light. It's very handy when we're checking the coach in the morning. We put the check light on, and it turns on all the lights in sequence. As we do the exterior walk around check, and we can check all the lights without having to come into the cab and switch on various lights. Next to that is a very interesting button. It's the cruise control button. We can either turn it off, or we can turn it to the normal function where we can set the speed on the cruise control and it will maintain that speed, or we can put onto the radar guided function where we set the distance to the vehicle in front, and using the radar on the front of the coach, it will keep that distance, and if the vehicle in front brakes, it will stop us. Next to that, you've got the exhaust regeneration button. So if you're driving the vehicle slowly for a long time and you haven't been on the motorway, the exhaust system can get clogged up with carbon, just like your car, and you should rev it all the way to the red line every now and again, just to clear out the exhaust system of carbon. So on the coach, we've got a button here where if we're parked, as long as we're not parked on grass or anything can catch fire, parked on a concrete road or whatever, we can press that button and it will basically put fuel into the exhaust system and blow out any carbon that's been built up. Next to that is the traction control light, control button. We can turn off the traction control again if we need to start on a surface where for some reason it's difficult starting, I can't think of a reason why you do that, but unless it acts like a differential lock where it locks the rear wheels and allows you to start on slippery ground. But yeah, that's the traction control button we turn off. On the actual instruments panel itself, we've got just a rev counter, we've got the fuel consumption meter, temperature gauge, speedometer, oil pressure gauge, which you don't find in many cars these days, but it's quite handy to know if you've got an oil pressure problem. Fuel gauge. The yellow light there is simply for the kneeling facility, so we can kneel the vehicle if people want to get on and they're having difficulty climbing the stairs, or in some places where we have to raise the vehicle to match the height of the curb, we can do that. The button next to it here is very interesting as well. It's called ferry lift. It can squat the entire vehicle, again to help people get on and off, but more importantly it can raise the vehicle if we're going onto a ferry or we need more ground clearance. The thing to be aware of is if you're driving with the ferry lift elevated, obviously it's going to make the vehicle taller. The vehicle's at 12 foot 11 inches in its normal ride height, but obviously if you raise the ferry lift, you've got to think about if you're in a port or whatever, below bridges or trees or any kind of height restriction. Next to that we've got the lane departure warning light. These vehicles have a lane departure system where if we stray over the white lines on the motorway, it will vibrate the driver's seat just in case we're falling asleep or we don't know what we're doing. And again, you can turn that function off on that button here. There we go. It says lane departure warning switched off. Press it again. Just go through that again just in case you missed it. So press it once. Lane departure warning switched off, and we'll turn it back on again. On the actual instrument cluster itself, we can go through various diagnostic tools and service settings and service warnings. We can look at, for example, total hours driven, the total hours the vehicle's been idled, our fuel consumption, our driving score. We can go back and it shows us the tachograph information now. I've been resting now for an hour and 34 minutes. We can look at the status of the vehicle, the current ride height. I've got the front lowered, so it's saying it's minus 105 millimeters, and the rear is just minus 5 millimeters. So just near the front. Going back to that, we can also look at various parameters to do with the vehicle. At the moment, I've only got 40% AdBlue in the tank. That's the urethra product that we squirt into the fuel system to lower the emissions. It's telling me the clutch disc is at 90% wear, brake linings, various wear indicators on that, but we've got at least 47% on the brake linings. The rest are more. It tells us it needs a service in, oh, that can't be right, 888,000 kilometres. No, that must be right. Yeah, so it goes through various vehicle things. Warnings, it tells us if there's anything wrong with the vehicle. We can change the way that the driver sees the information while he's driving, depending on what we want to see. We can set it to fuel consumption or total running hours. Same with the lower program field. We can look at whatever information we think is necessary when we're driving, and more gauges that tell us the status of the vehicle. The air pressure in the 4 air tanks, they're all above about 7.5 bar at the moment. Fuel consumption, battery voltage, that's interesting to know if you've got a battery problem. You can see how the voltage is going. At the moment we're at 24.6 volts. These vehicles run a 24 volt system, unlike your car. Modern cars now are switching to 48 volt batteries because they're running hybrid systems. The batteries in the hybrid buses that you see in London run at 600 volts, so that's higher than London Underground trains. So there's various parameters we can look at. Going back to the dashboard, we've got the headlight switch here, turn it on and off, headlights, parking lights off, the hazard light switch as well. We've got a USB cigarette lighter socket for the driver, so he can run his sat-nav or phone or whatever. All these vehicles have a built-in coach phone, which is hands-free. That's the coach phone there, that's the instrument panel for the coach phone. These fuel tanks can be filled from either side, so we've got buttons here to release the fuel flaps on the left or the right. We can fuel from both sides at the same time if we want to fuel more quickly. But the pumps that we use, the HGV fuel stations, deliver fuel a lot more quickly than a normal car pump, so it never takes more than about 3 or 4 minutes to fuel. Going through these buttons here, this is the button that tells me that the toilet's got power, it's got lighting, and the flush and taps will work. The next button turns the server on if we want to heat up our food or make coffee or whatever. The next button here is the front fog lights, and next to it the rear fog lights. The button down here controls the front door, opens and closes it. Now we've got 3 buttons here for the luggage racks. So these coaches, they're all hydraulically operated, I should say, and for safety reasons you've got to press the buttons twice to release them, because if you're parked next to another vehicle and you press the button by accident, you're going to open the luggage racks and it's going to damage your vehicle or the vehicle next to you. So you've got to press them once and press them again to open the luggage racks. They open very slowly for safety reasons so that they don't knock anybody over, and sometimes the passengers get frustrated and don't understand why they're taking so long to open, and they try and pull them, and I have to tell them not to pull them. The next button next to it is for the emergency door on the off side, to open that just in case we're loading from the right hand side on a one-way street, for example. The next button down here is the horn. We've got 2 different types of horn. We've got the city horn and the cattle horn. Next to it is the fridge in the middle of the coach. We've got 2 fridges, one at the front, one at the back. That turns on the rear fridge. Next to it is the heated mirror function. Then we've got the reversing horn, which we can switch off at night time. This button here controls the driver's cab window. Over here we've got the button to control the guide's door window. We've also got the buttons here to turn on and off the camera for the passengers, and the rest of these buttons are actually blank, they're just blanking plates. Down here we've got the radio. We can set it to either microphone, radio, CD, auxiliary or DVD player, and we can either have that running through all the speakers in the coach or just the speakers at the front for the driver. This of course is the tachograph. That needs a whole video on itself, to be honest with you. I'm not going to try and explain it to you now, but it basically records the driver's resting hours and hours that have been driving or doing other work. We have to put our card in. At the end of the day we eject the card, and it records all the information for 28 days. We can be stopped, and that can be expected, and if we break the law we can get into serious trouble. So that's the tachograph. Going back to the switches here, we've got the as I said, the driver's window. The 3 buttons here control the blinds for the left and right and driver's side, so we can lower the blinds when it's sunny. I've then got the internal lighting switches, the main running lights. I can dim them or I can turn them off. The next one along is the driver's cab lights. I won't turn them off because you won't be able to see anything, the next 2 switches. And the last one is the actual LED reading lights, which again I can turn off. That's back on. So basically, yeah, and the other thing I forgot is the electric mirror switches. We've got 3 electrically operated mirrors. We've got the 2 up on the arms, and they're controlled from here. We can adjust them electrically, and we've got the 1 down on the right hand side that we can also adjust electrically. The bird's eye mirrors at the top of the arms aren't adjustable electrically. We have to get out and do them ourselves, as is the internal mirror up there. And obviously on the exterior mirrors we've got the blind spot mirrors too. So if I count them for you, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 exterior mirrors on the coach in total. Okay. Also, before I forget, the indicator stalk and the windscreen wiper washer stalk on the left, that controls the wipers, the indicators and the headlight flashes. On the right hand side here we've got another stalk which is quite a lot to take in. It operates the gears, so we twist that lever there. You can probably hear it actually. It puts on the reverse horn when it goes into reverse and activates the reversing camera. Then we've got drive. If we pull the lever down, we've got the intarder, which we use to help slow down. We've also got manual control over the gears by pulling it up, changing from first to second, or pushing it down, changing from second to first. I must say these vehicles normally always start in second gear. You don't really need first gear for anything, unless you're starting in a very steep uphill with a heavy load. We've also got the increased power function. If you need increased power just for a short time, you can set that to increase power. But again, we normally never need it because these vehicles are so powerful. And you've got the option of switching between manual or automatic gear change, and again we just normally leave it in automatic. And that's about it for the moment.